You had mentioned something, Coach, as far as where y'all closed really strong. Y'all landed a lot of commits. Y'all lost some as well. Are you, just a general question, you, any fellow coaches, have y'all thought about getting together as far as maybe, I know there's been talk about it, but an early signing period for football? I know it's a general question, but have you had any?
No, I think that's going to happen. From what I hear in discussions, I think there's going to be an early signing date, December eventually. That would be my take on what I'm hearing right now. And I think we were really, in my opinion, need to revisit the whole calendar a little bit, because we have so many young men making commitments based on unofficial visits, or maybe not even a visit to the school. Now, young men know a lot more about your school today because of the internet, because they're pretty worldly compared to years ago. But I think we ought to be having official visits maybe the last 2 weeks of May, first 2 weeks of June, where we're still paying for young men to come visit our school instead of them having to pay as they make early commitments. Because there's more and more pressure on student athletes to make early commitments. We all recruit position specific. We're only going to be able to take X amount of certain things, and when you fill up at that position. And I just think that makes sense. There's been talk of a July early signing. I don't think that'll happen. I think it'll be on the junior college day in December when it does happen.
You're returning a young, or you're going to have a very young offense or defensive line this year after losing your starters to graduation. What are your feelings on that group, with the signings that you're bringing in to fill that hole that you might have had on the team?
Feel a lot better today after signing these guys. I feel like some of these guys are going to come in and make an impact. Certainly Will Trevelyan and some of the defensive linemen, Kareem Berry, Banks, some of those guys have to make an impact for us. Dustin Booth, still got Mike Odiari and some guys, but I think if there was one thing that I lost sleep about a little bit, was that we needed to shore up the defensive line class. When you lose DJ Endry and Blake McCullough, both of them played so well for us, that was a loss right there in the middle of our defense, and now I feel like we've got a chance to solidify that a little bit more.
Coach, you got, when you came here 3 years ago, obviously the talent level wasn't where it needed to be as far as Division I level. You feel like this class, the big part about recruiting is depth. So now you've got, over the especially the last 2 years, with this class the third year, you feel like you have the depth that you need to compete for where you need to be?
Well, we're getting closer, Steve. I think this is the closest we've been. Now all these guys got to come in and provide that for us. But our roster is getting closer to that, certainly, and it'll let us survive some injuries better and be able to play more people. And we'll always redshirt some of the guys that are not ready to play. We still believe in that. I think one of the strengths of our program, of my program down through the years, is that we've recruited good athletes. Now we're going to develop them. I'll give you a great example. Hayden Lambert, we signed a couple years ago, and Hayden was 255 offensive tackle. He's 295 today. And he's not just 295, he's stronger, more athletic. So I think, recruiting them is only the first part of the battle. The development of them into college football players, physically and mentally and emotionally, is something that I think we've always taken pride in trying to be able to do a good job of in this program. And that's, 18 of these guys are just going to be freshmen next year. Now, sometimes freshmen come in and play. Tyler Jones came in and played and did well. But I don't know if you sit around and plan on your freshmen playing. You hope they play and everything. But to plan on them would probably be pushing things along at a little faster rate than you should. But there's no doubt our roster is closer today, because of this class, to being an FBS roster than it's ever been. Are we there completely yet? Not quite, maybe, but we're the closest we've been since I've been here, which is a great feeling on our part.
With as much as the offensive line struggled last year, and then when Devin graduated, what about the decision not to target a JC offensive lineman?
Well, we redshirted Brandon Sarabia, So that's one of the guys that we redshirted. We looked at junior college offensive lineman or two, but with the number of starters we had coming back, we just didn't feel like if he wasn't going to step in and take somebody's job, we weren't going to sign him. And, you know, we got Jackson Hoskins redshirted, and we've got some other options there. We got to get better in that area, but you'd like to think those 3 redshirt freshmen are going to be better. They've got a year under their belt now. The system's not going to change a tremendous amount. We'll probably make some adjustments as we go through spring practice. So they got to get better. They're going to be stronger. You know, I can't believe there'll be any comparison to the offensive line that will take the field for the first game this year that took the field for the first game last year. They were totally wide-eyed, and Southern Miss's D-line shocked them even a little more probably. They got better as the year went on. I don't think they're anywhere close to being as good as they're going to be, and 4 out of 5 are back. And actually, if we slide a guy or 2 around, we could have Jack Costello play about as much as Devin did last year. So that wasn't something, a JC guy that was really high on our radar.
For guys like Ryan Melton, Felix Romero, you like the way they're developing right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm anxious to get to spring practice and see if their confidence level be higher, and see how much Coach Padell is going to make an impact on them. I really think he's going to. There's no doubt we have to be better, or we won't have a good offensive team. But we have a quarterback in place that we know can do things. You know, last year we had a bad combination. We had a young offensive line, and we had inexperienced at quarterback. You know, when you have a young offensive line and experience at quarterback, you kind of offset yourself a little bit. Or if you have inexperienced at quarterback and experienced offensive line, you do. We had both. That's not the healthiest combination to have a good offensive team.
Coach, you had talked about, I guess among all the others, you had talked about Stedman Mayberry. I was going to ask you about him since he's a local guy. How quickly do you think that he can come in and contribute immediately? I mean, he's a pretty experienced back. He played in a pretty tough district and had a lot of success at Vista Ridge.
Stedman's talented enough to play as a freshman. He's athletic. He's got, you know, you watch his vision as he makes cuts and does things. You know, as far as athletic ability, he's ready to play. Now, learning a new offense and the nuances of that takes some time, but he's a very intelligent kid. He's, like I said, his dad's a high school football coach, so he's been around this game for a long time. I would expect him to pick things up pretty quick. You know, usually the thing that freshmen have the hardest time with is being asked to block maybe a little bit more at our level than they are maybe at the high school level sometimes. And so how well he can do that will determine a little bit of how quick he. But like P.J. Anderson, those two are offensively, they could play next year. They're talented enough.
As far as getting local products like that, is it important to, you know, to get guys like that, maybe like up and coming, you know, high school prospects, you know, recognize and see them going to Texas State, to know that that there is an option right down the road from them?
Yeah, we love getting local guys. Will Copa, huge get for us. Had to beat a lot of people for him. Stedman committed pretty early with us. P.J. Anderson, we think, is going to be a good player. We love it when we can get guys that are within an hour of us, like those guys are, and we'd like to get them all if we could. The great thing about this class is that with about, I think, 18 or 17 or 18 high school guys, we didn't sacrifice a freshman class at all with the ability to sign those guys. And so, especially in the defensive line and places, I think those guys can come in and make an impact pretty quick.
Coach, 17 from Texas, I mean, obviously, you're looking, you know, with the wealth of talent in Texas, you want to make that number go up, don't you, in the future, or are you happy with 17?
We just want to sign great players, and you know, the nucleus of our class will always come from this state. There's no doubt about that. But you know, we've kind of made our deal here that we recruit California junior colleges because there's so many of them there. We recruit the Kansas junior colleges and the Mississippi, and we recruit the state of Texas. And now we ended up signing James Sherman because he's the best kicker, and we knew about him through the kicking camps, and Will Johnson goes to the same kicking camp as James, and so we had a connection there. The two Florida kids, Carter English really kind of recruited them with some help from our coaches, and they were being recruited by Sunbelt teams and kind of showed an interest, and it was a connection that we made and felt like they were good football players. So, you know, that's our first purpose, to sign guys that can help us the most. But the nucleus of this class will always come from the state of Texas. 5 of the top 100 players in the Houston area we signed. Houston is always going to be, Houston, Central Texas, and South Texas are always going to be pivotal for us.
Is Guidry the only 2-sport athlete that you'll have?
I think so, yeah.
Have you seen a growth in the amount of miles, the number of states that the coaches now start visiting, now that we're moving up to FBS, are you getting more national notoriety?
We are. That's growing each year. You know, just a little thing, but when your name's going across the bottom of the ticker with the FBS schools, it puts you in a little different bracket. And that's been huge for us, the exposure that our school is getting with wins such as against Houston in our first year in FBS, and getting to bowl eligible this year. The word is spreading about Texas State. I call this a process all the time. This is another step in that process, and you know, the doors that are open are a little more plentiful and a little wider open because of the exposure of things like that.
You talked about your base being Central Texas, San Antonio, Houston. Only one player from Dallas. You only had one last year, Brandon McDowell. I mean, are you wanting to have more of a presence in the Dallas area?
We would. I keep telling our AD I'd like to play a game up in Dallas for recruiting purposes.
Cowboys, they want to play.
Yeah. Oklahoma State.
Hardin Simmons.
Those guys up there are still learning about our school a little bit. They haven't always been on our campus, and so guys come down and they go, wow, more so maybe than Houston guys who know a lot more about us, or Central Texas guys who certainly know a lot more about us. But we want to continue to grow in that area because there's so many good football players. You know, having excuse me, been at TCU and recruiting the Metroplex so hard, I know what's there. It's just more and more spreading the word about Texas State up there and being able to attract more good players.
Out of the 27 signees, Coach, 11 out of state, 4 high school, 7 JUCO. You were kind of touching on it with the gentleman's question, but it was that much easier to push the brand of Texas State football now that you moved up to FBS. You obviously felt that across the board, and it shows in being able to get 11 guys out of state.
No comparison to where we started. You know, my first year we had 10 days to recruit. That was tough. And we were really just an FCS program that was 4-7 at that time. My second year we still competed in the Southland but couldn't win the championship. We played a couple Division I schools, and we had some beams and things going on down there in the end zone, and some construction. And then we finished the stadium, and that made a big impact. We actually started to develop an FBS profile in the WAC that year, and that was good. Second year, I think the profile's enhanced a little more, and the Sun Belt give us, I think, something really positive to sell, especially when you're the highest ranked non-AQ conference. So all those things are part